The opinions expressed in this show are the views of the host and not necessarily that of WTRW, 94.3 The Talker, or the Bold Gold Media Group.
The following presentation is brought to you by the host of the program, who is solely responsible for its content.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Make a Change. I'm your host, Terry Martin, along with my producer, Tom Jenkins.
Hello, Terry.
Well, this show today is, of course, all about you and how to make a change. And we have a special guest on today, Bob Butts. And I just happened to be in a grocery store one day, months ago, and I saw someone who I thought from advertising that I had seen on all the advertising that Bob has done all along, that this possibly was him. So we sat and talked, or we stood and talked in the aisle for quite a while. And I'm just so fortunate to have ever met Bob. And now Bob is here to tell us about the water cures. No, first of all, before the water cures, tell us all about Bob Butts.
Well, I got my learning or education is in the health field by running an auto parts business. I figured, well, I found neither people nor cars run well without water.
Love it.
Same logic. It's a no-brainer.
Yes.
And I think if medical science had experience in an auto parts store, they'd probably figured this out long ago.
I think they have, but it's a money thing.
Yeah, that's true. And the whole country essentially is addicted to money. I know the automotive businesses and everything. We don't realize it. We don't realize what we're doing to ourselves. It's worse than the addiction to drugs and alcohol that incidentally can easily be cured with water and salt. But I'm having the time of my life, really. You have to experience, when you look at somebody, like I told you about the one judge who called me. He says, my doctor told me to call you. I have MS, and I've lost 90% of my vision, and I'm having trouble going up and down steps. There's 90% of his vision in one eye. And I said, well, first thing you have to know is what MS stands for, which obviously stands for monumentally stupid, because anybody who couldn't figure out the cause and cure of MS would have to be dumb beyond belief. Because your nerve tissue is 90 or 85% water, and a symptom of MS is nerve tissue hardens. Mm-hmm. It's like, duh. What do you think it would be? Lack of Prozac? At any rate, I told him he should have his vision back in about 4 days. Now, in fact, I mentioned to him, you mean your doctor told you to go to an auto parts store and was supposed to help you get rid of an incurable disease like MS? Do you believe that? He said, yes, I do. If my doctor says it's true, it's true. Well, your doctor's right.
Well, I was very surprised when I came to your auto parts store and saw the amount of information you had there that's free, the DVDs, the CDs, whatever to listen to, and all of the books that are available. And the thing that really surprises me is you don't do this for money. You're not making any money on this, but you care about the world. And I am so impressed. And I don't know how many years you have been doing this.
20.
And what caused you to start doing this to begin with?
I got a solicitation from a man by the name of Sam Beiser, who said he interviewed a man who made the greatest health discovery in history. I said to myself, yeah, right. But it intrigued me. So I subscribed, and I got this incredible interview. In fact, I took it to a friend of mine, a very prominent medical doctor in northeastern Pennsylvania, very well known. Can't use his name, but maybe after what happened today on Good Morning America, maybe he'll start talking. At any rate, it was one thing after another. I interviewed Dr. Batman Gellage on a show I used to do called Just Common Sense.
Now, is this the man that wrote The Water Cure? Could you tell us what water cure actually means? Is that what?
It's curing with water.
It seems so simple.
Yeah. In fact, it's ironic. And on Good Morning America, they're talking about water and all the benefits of it. The problem is this will devastate the profitability of the entire healthcare system. And who out there among us will do research on something that's going to put us out of business. And I believe it will. But we have to get on the same team. I don't blame the people who are fighting this. It's because we've been taught to believe that our worth as human beings is measured in money. Because as Aristotle Onassis said, he says, money is the universal measure of excellence, and no one ever has too much excellence. As for me, all I need is 10% more. So we are totally addicted. It is not the people in medicine. They're not the bad guys. Everything in medicine is taught, that people are taught to treat a symptom. Well, how in the world could you ever cure anything if you treat a symptom? And if you want to really screw people's lives up, tell them salt is bad for them. Salt is the most life-essential nutrient. In fact, in the Middle Ages, they used to put people to death by salt deprivation. They could drive them insane. Mm-hmm. Now I understand in local prisons and across the country, inmates aren't getting salt. What are we? And we're wondering why they can't get cured of maybe that's what's wrong with all our legislators. They have salt deficiencies.
Are you saying that has anything to do with mental?
Oh, and by the way, speaking of mental, Saudi Arabia. If you were to Google Saudi Arabia, salt cures 73 illnesses, 2 of which are mental illnesses and insanity. Now, these people that were put in prison and killed by salt deprivation, they would literally go insane.
Really?
And so we're blaming everybody for everything. I always say, God made us perfect, but our software sucks. I mean, that's really what it is. Mm-hmm. We have bad software, biological, spiritual computers. If we knew the truth, we'd have no problems. Mm-hmm. I tell people, though, this isn't for stupid people. You have to be pretty smart. You need an IQ of at least 1. Otherwise, you'll never understand it.
Do you feel like this world is so complicated that people think there has to be a complicated answer? They cannot understand. Water could be the simple cure to so many things. It doesn't really even matter what the sickness is, does it? Because water will take care of almost everything. Almost everything. I mean, because we're so dehydrated. I was reading in your book about, I believe it was, about the infants and how important it is for the mother to be drinking that water before the baby is ever even born. Dr. Batman-Gelage believed that the main cause of autism is the mother, when she's pregnant, she's dehydrated. Yes. I was shocked when I read that. And you know, what we need to do, one of the big things, we need to get our children an honest education, because we do not have an honest education. Einstein, he hit right on the head. He said that the secret to his success was he refused to memorize anything. Mm-hmm. He said, I would never trade my imagination for a grade. Oh. And he said, that was my whole secret. That's it, if you call it a secret. It's a no-brainer. We can take all of our children growing up, no problem, because of the genius in everybody. But when you have them memorized, what are you going to be bored to death? You will never come up with a new idea. If we want to create jobs, this is simple. Create useful jobs by thinking people. Mm-hmm. But you're never going to get thinking people if they have to memorize. You're going to be stuck in the past. Mm-hmm. And here, he was known as the greatest genius of the last century. Time magazine did a cover feature on him at the end of the year. But nobody pays attention to what he's saying on education that would turn tremendous talent that's within everybody loose. And learning would be fun. And we don't need to go to school for 16 years. Maybe 3, maybe 6. I like that. How long does a child have? How long does a 3-year-old go to school to learn how to operate a computer? That's for sure. We have grossly underestimated ourselves. Einstein said school is a place where they try to teach fish to climb trees.
You just made me think of something, Bob. My 3-year-old can work an iPhone better than my mother-in-law. And he hasn't gone to school for that. We need to start teaching our kids early, and we need to get our kids educated, highly educated, in spite of school. Because it's depriving our country, it's depriving every individual, because everybody wants to get ahead. I always say, I want to get ahead because I need one. Well, now that they can Google everything, do they sit in silence or just get away from this crazy, loud, busy world?
to even use their own imaginations? Because they can Google every answer that they want. So are they having the opportunity to think things through anymore?
Yeah, but see, what you'll do, you will be thinking more, because learning is a blast. Now, I Google all the time. I don't know what I do without Google. I'm looking for scientific information or whatever. It's quick. Like Einstein said, know where to find the information and know how to use it. If Einstein were alive today, he'd Google everything. Mm-hmm. And he'd invent a lot more things. There's an inventor in every one of us. But we all measure ourselves by our deficiencies. As Einstein said, great a fish at tree climbing, it'll think he's stupid. We have no idea how incredible we are. But we have to get on the same team. I mean, I've really beat up on the healthcare system, because it's hard for me to imagine anything could be as dumb as healthcare. But it's not that anybody's dumb, but you can be taught to be dumb.
Exactly.
I believe that education is a disease. Speaking of that, you can get this book off the internet, written by Charlotte Iserbyt, free. The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. That got her fired when she wrote that book, and she was in the Department of Education during the Bush administration.
I did hear of that.
We need to get together. We are, and I'm talking every country. There's these geniuses all over the world. This is crazy. My dream is to be, I think I told you, to be the worst person on the face of the earth.
No. Explain that. You can know. You better explain that.
Well, on a scale of 1 to 100, if 100 is perfect, I want to be a 98 and be the worst.
Okay.
So I would be the dumbest genius. But that'd be okay. But we've been taught to devalue ourselves. What an atrocity. What a terrible thing to do to a human being.
Well, let's take this back to water. Because you could say, well, how does this have anything to do with water? When we can't function right, we can't think right. So in making a change, what the show is all about, then we need to talk more about people understanding how easy it is. And again, we always try to talk about inexpensive things to do to change your life. And if this is one, except the bottles that we keep buying.
We'd save enough money on health to pay off the national debt, and there'd be enough money left over to straighten out everything. Because health, we've destroyed the physical and financial health of our country. The worst, we've dehumanized. We've dehumanized most people. We talk about bullying. All of this ties up. Everything is tied together. People with the power bully everybody. Water. I'm going to make an attempt anyway to contact Good Morning America, because they were talking about water and what it does for your skin, and they're all excited about it. There was a few naysayers. But regardless, WYOU did a tremendous documentary on the water cure. It, in fact, Larry Spierwalt, I believe that was him. He was this news director when this was done. This was done 1 year after I got involved with it. It was done in 1995, and it is so spectacular. That should have made national news. Actually, Iran made the water cure national, worldwide news. It took them two weeks to declare a tremendous discovery. Dr. Batman Gilledge was slated to be shot as a political prisoner in Iran because he was considered an enemy of the people, because anybody who was wealthy, I figured they got it unjustly. Mm. When he says, if I'm to be shot, so be it. But before anything like that happens, it's important that this gets out to the entire world. And the judge looked at it and he said, "This is all in English, so we don't understand this anyway. We'll have our medical community look at it." Took them 2 weeks. When they reconvened, they told Dr. Batman Gilledge, "You have indeed made a tremendous discovery, and we wish you good luck."
It seems like this is just common sense, but
the point is, we are so addicted to money. We have no sense in everything, but yet we've been brainwashed to believe that. If there is a hell, well, healthcare is right out of hell. Mm-hmm. but so is almost everything else. There is nothing wrong with people. We've been brainwashed.
Yes, that.
Look, what's going on in the United States proves it. But we waste a lot of time blaming this one and that one, when in reality we just have bad software. Let's release this tremendous genius and have great lives. Life expectancy should be at least 120. And people don't need to die in pain. Water.
Or get old and think that all of these pains come along with old age. We don't have to feel that.
Well, why don't you hold that thought, Bob? We got to take a quick break, okay? When we come back, we'll get more into that. I want to learn about who is Dr. Batman Gelich. I hear you talk about him all the time. I'd like to learn a little bit more about him and this discovery, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
That sounds good.
All right, so don't anybody go anywhere. You're listening to Make a Change with your host, Terry Martin. I am Tom Jenkins. Any questions for Terry, you can feel free to give her a call at 866-646-3374. Check out our webpage, MederiClinicals.com, and we'll be right back on Make a Change on 94.3 FM, The Talker. Mederi Clinicals, a unique skincare company, has a complete skincare line for men and women. From anti-aging to glycolic and even a clinical line for sensitive skin, Mederi Clinicals is for you. Their number one product? Forgiveness. It's the secret to younger looking and younger acting skin. You can experience the transformation with fewer wrinkles, firmer skin, and a more youthful, radiant complexion. Treat aging, sun damage, rosacea, and more with Forgiveness. Plus, buy one bottle of Forgiveness, get one lip enhancing complex for free. Forgiveness. Apply it morning and night and keep forgiving and forgetting all through the day. Make a change with Mederi Clinicals. Balance, restore, look, and feel new. Mederi Clinicals, a complete skincare company for men and women. Call 866-646-3374 or check out MederiClinicals.com. MEDERI Clinicals.com. And we're back on Make a Change on 94.3 FM The Talker. I'm Tom Jenkins, along with your host, Terry Martin, for Make a Change. And a special guest in the studio today is the water cure man himself, Bob Butts from CK Auto. He's here. And thank you very much, first, Bob, for coming in and doing the show with Terry today. And I've known you for, I can't tell you how many years now, and I've recorded 99% of all of your commercials and the show that you have here on 94.3 FM The Talker. You're on every Sunday here from 8:30 to 9:30 with the Water Cure shows. And you always talk about Dr. Batman Gelich. Dr. Batman Gelich. He was the guy. This was the man. He was the man. He was the man. Who was Dr. Batman Gelich? How did you meet him, and what's the whole story behind that?
Well, first of all, if it weren't for Khomeini and the revolution in Iran, nobody would have ever heard of Dr. Batman Gelich, because had he not been incarcerated and slated to be shot, he never would have made his discovery.
How did he make it, and how did he go about getting this all through, and then how did you meet the guy?
Well, when he was in prison, he was the only doctor. And it's Evin Prison, which is allegedly the worst prison in the world. And a lot of people had they get heartburn, but the big thing was ulcers. And he cured over 3,000 inmates in that prison of peptic ulcer disease. But it found it only works 100% of the time. I always like to throw that in. I mean, this whole thing it's like, to argue against it, that's like saying, there is no sun. We went out every night at midnight looking for it, and we can't find it. That proves there's no sun.
Is this that doctor that I read about also, that they expected him to heal all the prisoners, and they gave him nothing to heal them with? All he had was water.
That's right.
Is that the? Is
he was
the
put in a
story?
place where that's all he had to work with,
and it worked.
And then when,
in fact, he probably would have killed him if he had the medicine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Medicine doesn't heal, although the FDA says only drugs can heal. That's like saying only pigs can fly. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. But we do crazy things when we put money before people. I can imagine what we could do if we were all on the same side. And that's where we need to be. That's why we're here, to make life less difficult for each other.
But back to that doctor. Tell us more about him and how you met him and how he became famous and how he ever got out of that prison. What happened? 2
weeks later, after they had recessed till they verified if what Dr. B said was true. And the first words of the judge, they came back, he said, "You have indeed made a tremendous discovery, and we wish you good luck in the future."
And then they let him go.
Well, they said, you're going to be, I think it's 3 years, 3 years. But
what, 3 years in jail?
Pardon?
What, you're going to be 3 years, what, 3 years in jail?
3 in jail.
Still, okay.
But in a couple of months, they come back. They said, you know, we realize that you're a good man, and you're free to go now. Mm. He said, well, I really don't have time. He says, I'm deep in research, and I want to continue this, if you don't mind. I need at least another 3.5, 4 months.
To stay in jail.
You know? So you look at the circumstances that had to take place for Dr. Batman Gelich to ever learn of this.
Right.
This is wild. But what hurts is Iran did broadcast to the world. It was in a number of major newspapers in the United States. They're all on Dr. Batman Gelich's website, which is watercure.com. And how I got to meet him was I had the opportunity to interview him on WARD. I mentioned it before, did a show there called Just Common Sense, which that's all everything is, just common sense. Mm-hmm. And Sam Ligori, who was program director there, he had an angina. He had it for 5 years, and he was told he needed a bypass. So at any rate, Sam come back. He didn't say anything during the show, but it was exciting. You knew. Well, before I had even done anything with Dr. Batman Gelich, I sent out the information to a very well-known doctor here in northeastern Pennsylvania. If I've said his name, everybody knows him. And he was a friend of mine. And he said, "This is incredible." He said, "But it's going to put a lot of doctors out of work." But he said, "If I were to say anything, I'd lose my job and my license."
Yes.
He said, I said, "I can't believe that." He says, "Believe it, it's like auto parts. If it makes money, it's good. If it doesn't, it's bad." I said, I guess it's like every business. And anybody in business knows, how do we measure our worth as human beings? Well, where does our income, how does it stack up with last year? We always want 10% more, like Onasa said. And we all know who the bad guy is. It's the other guy. And there are no bad guys. We have bad information, and there's no way we can make wise decisions based on bad information. We've been led to believe lies, and we need everybody.
You know, Bob, I would just like to go back a little bit, too, to talk about how much money you have spent. And I would just love people to know your heart and why you're doing this. And you don't call them sacrifices, but could we talk about that a little?
Sure. Well, it's a little bit embarrassing. Because if you're doing something that makes a difference, it's really an honor. But my wife and I did spend over $1 million. We spent most of our savings. But I wouldn't trade that experience for all the money in the world. Heck, who cares?
You did it for us. Mm-hmm.
And I did it for me. Because, talk about fun, this is like going to Disney World every day as a kid. Is that a sacrifice to, hey,
I see your excitement.
go to Disney World for a week or whatever? And when you see a blind person, like I told you, that the judge, 4 days he had his eyesight back. We've dealt with illnesses that people say it's impossible to cure. Well, everything I learned from Dr. Batman Gelich, we were real close friends. We had so much fun. Mm-hmm. And how would you feel when you see these people getting well? Even the animals cure arthritis 100% of the time. A dog, 2 days usually, he'll be flying around the house. Mm-hmm. And bills for animals are astronomical. It's the same thing for people. All these horrendous bills, and you're seeing them get well for nothing. Just water and salt. All life came from the ocean.
Well, speaking of that, and animal lovers, you see the way they spend on all of the supplements for the animals, the best dog or cat food, and yet I don't know if a lot of us, I don't know if we take as good care of ourselves as we do even in the animals. So just simple water.
And even we don't take good care of the animals because what are we giving them? Drugs. Mm-hmm. And again, the money is made.
Then it's education
misery.
That we need to put out there. That's a little bit more. That it's so simple.
We need to be educated to be ethical. That's it. Be successful at being ethical, and we have no problems. This is like trying to do a one-piece jigsaw puzzle. It's really not very difficult. And you're alive. Even my family said I was crazy. In fact, in the beginning, half the people thought I was nuts, and the other half knew I was. But when you know something is true, well, how could you ever turn your back on it?
Right.
And to me, it didn't matter what anybody said.
You said something that you have to be ethical.
Yes.
What is ethical?
I guess what you'd say is wanting for others what you want for yourself.
Okay. Simply put.
If everybody did that, you're not sacrificing. It's the greatest journey anybody could ever have. When you look at imagine you're looking into the eyes of a person who's blind in one eye. Now that's the usual thing because anybody with MS or diabetes, they usually go blind in one eye. And all this is relatively simple. But know that there's no such thing as incurable. What experience do I have? My first experience was with Dr. Dean Burke, and he was co-founder of the National Cancer Institute. And he says the more people making a living off cancer, the more impossible it is to get rid of it. And
wow.
that's what. So we're giving more and more money. RSD. If anybody ever heard of RSD, which is the worst, most painful disease known to man.
You call that really stupid diagnosis, right?
Yeah, really stupid diagnosis. Well, a nurse called me, and she wanted to know. She had been bedridden for 2 years. No hope. They call it the suicide disease because most people who get it commit suicide.
Oh.
And I said, I don't know anything about that, but just give me the symptoms. So she rattled them off, and she said, what do you think? I started to laugh. I said, this isn't a disease. I said, but now I know what RSD stands for. Really stupid diagnosis.
When's your last drink of water?
I said, what do you drink? Caffeine, alcohol, soda. How much salt? None. Salt's bad for you. I said, oh my God. Well, at any rate, I said, well, I figure 2 weeks you should be fine. And she started getting results in 1 day. But usually people do get results in 1 day. Like you can cure high blood pressure, about 45 minutes, with salt and water. Doing the opposite, and that's almost all. You think the last thing cured in the United States was polio in 1955. All these drives, for what? Mm-hmm. For what?
Did I read in that book about the brain taking 85% of the water? So what does that leave the rest of your body? So when our bodies are really falling apart, is it that simple? That, of course, your brain's going to get it first.
Yeah, that's true.
And so it just constricts everything and makes your whole body, everything, just so hard to work without water? I mean, could you explain that to me? I'd like to know that.
Well, if you think about it, obesity is a major problem. Makes lots of money, but lots of dumbness. I mean, unbelievably dumb. And people, especially women, they're beating themselves up because they're fat. We all measure ourselves in our deficiencies. Like as Einstein said, to repeat it, he said, great fish at tree climbing, and he'll think he's stupid. Obesity is the simplest thing you could ever run into. The reason a person gains weight is because you have to be dehydrated. And when you're dehydrated, your brain will make you crave food. You're craving it. But as soon as you start drinking water, you're no longer hungry. And your body will go right back to its normal weight.
But the trouble is, too, many people that know that they're thirsty, they're not drinking the water, and they'll drink the soda, which kind of
it's like you got
does stop it for a while, but then it keeps making you thirsty, so the more soda you drink, the more pounds come on.
Yep. It's like, you got a headache, so you're going to beat yourself on the head with the hammer. And there's all these pain management places. You don't need pain management. What's to manage pain? Now, they're going back to this nurse who had all this pain. You can imagine it's so bad. People are cutting their arms and legs off, and they're still doing it right now. Mm-hmm. last year there was a drive here at McDade Park to raise money for Drexel University because they were doing research to find a cure. So a month before the drive, I started running spots on this station. What are you doing trying to raise money? You don't need it. It's easy to cure. You can cure it fast. Cure the dehydration and it goes away. They still ran their drive, but we ran those spots like crazy on the station.
Why do you think it's... Oh, okay, go. I'm sorry.
And only 26 people showed up for the drive, which was great. But look at what we're doing. How is it possible you can't cure anything? Because it comes down to the more money made in a problem, the more impossible it is to get rid of it. And we are all responsible. I was lucky in that I ran into Dr. Batman Gillich and Sam Beiser, the guy who did the story on him. And when you can see this, well, my God, what's going on here? I don't have any of this, any kind of medical training. But when you realize how much fun it is, wow, and how could you ever nobody should ever have to pay to get well. That's crazy. It should strictly be an honor. And I'm hoping what was done today on Good Morning America on water is going to open up the whole thing. People need it. WYOU, all the programs that WYOU did are on watercure2.org. And the one that they did was Barry Farber, very well known. He's been a leader in broadcasting. I tell him 500 years, but he's in his 80s, and he said, "This is as good as anything ever done that WYOU did in the history of broadcasting."
And on that note, we're going to take one more break here. We actually have two more breaks coming up, but we're going to take one now. When we come back, I want to learn more about the actual water cure, and not just that it's water that cures. I want to find out how to do it. How do you go about with the consumption? You keep saying salt. We're going to talk about that when we come back. You're listening to Make a Change on 94.3 FM The Talker. We'll be right back. Mederi Clinicals, a unique skincare company, has a complete skincare line for men and women. From anti-aging to glycolic and even a clinical line for sensitive skin, Mederi Clinicals is for you. Their number one product? Forgiveness. It's the secret to younger looking and younger acting skin. You can experience the transformation with fewer wrinkles, firmer skin, and a more youthful, radiant complexion. Treat aging, sun damage, rosacea, and more with Forgiveness. Plus, buy one bottle of Forgiveness, get one lip-enhancing complex for free. Forgiveness. Apply it morning and night and keep forgiving and forgetting all through the day. Make a change with Mederi Clinicals. Balance, restore, look, and feel new. Mederi Clinicals, a complete skincare company for men and women. Call 866-646-3374 or check out MederiClinicals.com. MEDERI Clinicals.com. Welcome back to Make a Change on 94.3 FM The Talker. Your host, Terry Martin, in the studio. I am Tom Jenkins. We've got a special guest in the studio with us today, too, Bob Butts. The Water Cure, he's here to talk all about that. Also, if you want to hear anything more about the Water Cure, you can listen to his show here every Sunday, 8:30 to 9:30 on 94.3 FM The Talker. And watercure2.org. Watercure2.org is the webpage to go. Now, we asked you earlier, what is the water cure? And you looked at us and said, well, it's curing with water. Duh. If I came to you and said, Bob, I'm suffering from gastroesophageal reflux disease, how do I do the water cure? What would you tell me?
Well, what the water cure does, it restores your immune system. That's all it does.
Okay.
So if your immune system is strong enough, it's impossible to get sick. And the two most life essential nutrients are water and salt. That's why the number one protocol in every hospital is a saline IV. So it's not that they don't know it. Of course, what the important thing is the kind of salt you use. You can't use table salt because that's 3 mineral salt. Where good sea salt will have 50 to 85 minerals. So you're getting what you need. Of course, you can make it, if you live near the ocean, you just go for a swim every day, and that'll take care of it.
Oh, I'd like that.
So there's nothing complicated about it. But the idea is, and now the water and salt aren't the whole thing, but they're part of it, part of every solution. Nobody can get well without water and salt. That's why I always say, it takes you an IQ of about 1 to figure this out. But if you have money in the back of your mind, it's impossible. That's why we never cure anything.
But say you get up in the morning and we want to do what you tell us to do. How do we begin? What do we do in the day?
First thing you do when you
or how much in a day, or
half your body weight in ounces. If you weigh 200 pounds, you're going to need approximately 100 ounces. But this problem sometimes people, it starts running through you. Well, then if that happens, although if you take enough salt, there's a balance in there, and it's not going to run. It's not going to run through. If you're losing too much water, then you will lose electrolytes. The thing is, it is really simple. The results are fast. In fact, we see a lot of people cured of a bunch of things in seconds. Just a week ago, I was in a local restaurant, and the manager came over to talk to me about the water cure. Because everywhere I go, I've got this water cure shirt on. And he had heard about it. And he's just telling me all the problems he's got. And he's bouncing around on his heels because he's in pain. And I said, why don't we have some fun here? Get me a glass of water. So he comes back with the glass of water. And I said, okay, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Oh, my 1/4 teaspoon of salt, I'm going to die. I said, you need, and this, of course, JAMA, the CDC, and Dr. Michael Alderman, Chief of Epidemiology at Albert Einstein Medical School, all said you need more salt. I couldn't imagine anybody with more credibility than those three. At any rate, within seconds, he started feeling better. Describe how you're feeling, and so he's kind of all of a sudden he can stand up without pain. Well, it wasn't. That's a little bit fast, but at any rate, within 30 minutes, he says, "This is awesome! I can't believe it. I've heard about it." And then his employees are looking at him, wondering what's going on. And he said, "Well, he says, all of a sudden my well-being, I feel happy." And that's what happens. We're seeing couples who've been on the verge of divorce straighten out their marriage because they're no longer short-tempered.
Right, they're not irritable anymore.
Yeah.
Their body's getting what it needs, so they feel happier.
All of a sudden, their energy comes up. Everybody needs to know this. This should be taught in every school. Many doctors have said this. Dr. Rome, he's a cardiologist, internist, and he said the water cure literally sweeps almost every disease before him. You can look up testimonials by doctors. This is vital. It's vital to your life. It's vital to the life of our country. Mm-hmm. We need to wake up and live. This is not a job. This is a joy. What WYOU did with that documentary that they did on the water cure, that has been shown all over the world. It's been shown in other countries. It was WVIA. They did staged a debate called Water Cure, Fact or Fiction. When they called me and asked me if I had the courage to debate a couple of the top doctors in northeastern Pennsylvania, I said, sure, but it won't be fair. I said, what do you mean it won't be fair? Well, how can you debate somebody that calls everything incurable? And we're seeing these people get cured. Mm-hmm. Well, it went phenomenal, but it upset the medical field.
So you drink half your body weight in ounces of water a day. Mm-hmm. How much sea salt do you use?
A quarter teaspoon for every 10 ounces. This is what I use.
Okay.
Now you might need a little more. You might need a little less. You should keep a log on everything you do, so you have to be your own doctor, and it's not hard. Go for a swim, whatever.
Is there a book though that someone can read more? And you say you have books. Could you tell us about the books that you have that you say you won't sell, but how is that?
We'll lend them.
You'll lend them.
Yeah. You'll pay a $10 deposit. When you're done with it, you bring it back. But nobody should have to pay to get well. I wish I did that right from the very beginning. We sold them cheap, but I was told you can't give this stuff away because people won't give it any credibility.
Why is that? You know, I had a question written down for you. And why are all of the gimmicks that are out there so easy, so believable, and people will pay a fortune for them, but we have such a hard time trying to get them to understand, or myself, to understand that they don't have to go for a gimmick. This is so simple, but why won't we buy it?
Because we've been told you only get what you pay for. It was phony water cure. Come on, you think we wouldn't tell you if we knew it were true? Well, many doctors will tell you, but some are afraid because they've been threatened. Nobody ever gets threatened physically, but we get threatened financially. And I'm talking about lots of people because they've told me.
Well, you even said you were blackballed all over the country.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, because of the money.
When we made the Art Bell show, it was so phenomenal. In fact, Dr. V and I were supposed to be on for an hour. We were on 4 hours. I know the first night we got 25,000 hits. They were flooded with calls. And one of the biggest responses in the history of the Art Bell show. This was on 500 radio stations. They ran it again 5 weeks later. I guess it had upset a lot of people. It was not the medical profession so much, but the drug companies. And you can understand it. Oh my God, what's going to happen to us? This is a multi-billion-dollar business. They'll be right out of business. And absolutely, they will be right out of business.
Is this the documentary you're talking about? That people can they go online? What you're talking about right now? You have that?
Yeah, you can go to just WYOU-TV, Water Cure documentary. Or there's television news stories, Water Cure. It's all over. It's on a lot of websites. That's where you can find the one that's on Saudi Arabia, and the fact that it's coming from Saudi Arabia, they're supposed to be our enemies. Well, so what? I don't care who it comes from, as long as it's true. And they have helped us. Thank God. It was tremendous thing what they did. But we need all of us together. We need to, our system. If our system were a baseball team, our best players would be one that strikes out all the time. You have to. I've lived it. My wife and I have lived this, and every time we could help somebody, you feel so great. No vacation in the world could ever give you the reward that this does. We get paid every time somebody gets well. You'll see people in tears sometimes. Like one lady, she came in to see me one day, and she had a bunch of problems. So I did do the same thing with the salt, about 10, 12 ounces of water, and a quarter of a teaspoon of sea salt. And she was drinking, and she started to cry. I said, what's the matter? What's the matter? And she says, when I was drinking the water, I could feel the pain going. It's gone. It's gone. That never happened before. People who couldn't get sleep in years, chronic pain. When I mentioned RSD, there's another one, fibromyalgia.
We're hearing a lot about that. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. It's like trying to do a one-piece jigsaw puzzle. I got a call from a lady from Canada. She says, I've had this 35 years. I did the water cure in 2 days, it was gone. No miracle. Heck, just a few days ago, we were curing people at a funeral parlor. And what happened, how that come up, it was a relation of mine. We thought the water cure was bunk. And she died, but she told her kids 5 days before she died, she said, Bob was right.
Well, Bob, you gave me some papers to look at, and this one really got my attention. It said, England's health providers deny 77-year-old man bypass operation and heart replacement. And then under that, it said, free water cure restores him to health.
Yeah.
Do you know about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, he sent me his testimonial. He says a friend of his from Spain gave him Dr. Batman Gillige's book, Your Body's Many Cries for Water. Well, he recovered all 100% recovery from the heart damage. He had 3 heart attacks. And he says at the age of 77, he bought a new racing bike. He said, I used to race professionally.
Wow. Yeah, there's a picture of him on here.
Why don't we take one more break? We'll come back with the last segment, and I think coming up, we can get into some more testimonials of the water cure. If you want any other information on the water cure, you can go to watercure2.org. You can listen here on 94.3 FM The Talker every Sunday morning at 8:30 for the Water Cure Show with Bob Butts. This is Make a Change with your host, Terry Martin. I'm Tom Jenkins, and we'll be right back. Mederi Clinicals, a unique skincare company, has a complete skincare line for men and women. From anti-aging to glycolic and even a clinical line for sensitive skin, Mederi Clinicals is for you. Their number one product? Forgiveness. It's the secret to younger looking and younger acting skin. You can experience the transformation with fewer wrinkles, firmer skin, and a more youthful, radiant complexion. Treat aging, sun damage, rosacea, and more with Forgiveness. Plus, buy 1 bottle of Forgiveness, get 1 lip enhancing complex for free. Forgiveness. Apply it morning and night and keep forgiving and forgetting all through the day. Make a change with Mederi Clinicals. Balance, restore, look, and feel new. Mederi Clinicals, a complete skincare company for men and women. Call 866-646-3374 or check out MederiClinicals.com. MEDERI Clinicals.com. And we're back on 94.3 FM The Talker with the show Make a Change with your host, Terry Martin. I'm Tom Jenkins. In the studio with us today is Bob Butts from CK Auto, and the show's all about the water cure. This show is because it's about making a change and how to make a change affordably, effectively, and from what Bob is talking about, this is so simple that it's ridiculously simple. And he was explaining that just to do this, just drink half your body weight in ounces of water. And what was the salt content? Sea salt content again? That was a 1/4 teaspoon for every 10 ounces.
Yep.
Okay.
Now that's for me. For most people, you can go to a kinesiologist, a chiropractor who understands energy medicine, and they will tell you how much salt you need.
Oh, that's good to know.
Okay.
Instead of guessing.
Yeah.
Well, while we were on break, you were even talking about someone who might drink alcohol, and
this will knock your socks off, because you don't want to go driving your car if you're half smashed. But start drinking some water until you sober up. It won't take that long. Alternate it, and maybe you want to quit drinking. But that's like going through hell trying to quit drinking when you're taking drugs. No problem for the water cure. Just do the water cure, and the craving is gone. Read the testimonials. Just Google drug and alcohol addiction cured with sea salt and water. Water and salt are the 2 most life essential nutrients, and Christ viewed it so essential that he called all his followers the salt of the earth.
Yes.
Well, who do you believe? You believe Christ, or you believe your doctor? And nothing against doctors. We all do the best. I believe we all do the best we can for what we know. Mm-hmm. And we got everything backwards.
Another thing that you gave me a paper on diabetes, that the water that you're talking about, a man that he said the water cured his diabetes. Could you explain?
Well, most people who get diabetes, I love diabetes, type 2 because it's an absolute no-brainer. This lady who used to help us at the house, she could never lose weight. She weighed 300. She could never lose that weight at all. 367 pounds.
Wow.
And she came into the house crying one morning, and she's got diabetes, and she's scared. And I said, a big smile on my face. I said, boy, this is great. Now, either I'm nuts to say something like that. I said, because you're gonna get rid of your diabetes. I said, I can show you in 40 minutes. In 40 minutes, you're going to you can drop your blood sugar count down to, you're going to lose at least 40 points. She lost 50.
Wow.
And she took 20 ounces of water and half a teaspoon of salt, because she lost. And in that 20 minutes, and she checked her blood sugar, and it only dropped 10 points. It usually does much more than that. I said, we'll do it again. She waited 20 minutes, took it again. Well, now it dropped 40 more. So she dropped 50 points in 40 minutes. Now, most people will get similar. Sometimes it'll be slower. But at any rate, she was doing it steady, and it kept dropping. It took 6 weeks until it was totally gone, but she didn't take any drugs. But at the same time, in the 6 weeks, she lost 25 pounds. She said, I never lost 25 pounds in my life. I don't think the place I kept going up. Well, she just kept doing the water cure, but it was no effort because she wasn't no longer dehydrated, so her body wasn't craving food. But after it was almost 9 months, she had lost a total of 97 pounds without going on a diet. There's lots of information, but we need to, as far as I'm concerned, it's hard for me to trust anybody selling anything because I was in auto parts for a long time, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to increase sales. But you look at things a lot different. But I've always told you concentrate on your business. Don't be doing this stuff.
Well, basically, all of these diseases that we're talking about,
they're not diseases.
No, and it's our body crying. It's basic. It's just basic water need, and that's all it is.
That's why Dr. B named his first book, Your Body's Many Cries for Water. So all these, your body crying for water. A no-brainer.
And the warnings that we're always talking about, it's warning us. It's begging us for something, and so we just run and fill it with all the pills, and they're not the answer. You can't fix that because it's so simple. It just needs the water.
Everybody needs to know this. Children should be taught this in school. I would be happy to give lectures to any group. It's a fun thing to do. You need to know it, and you need to know why. And more, there's more. It's getting all over the internet. Lots of websites are promoting the water cure. Japan is doing it. South Korea came to an auto parts store in Music. They traveled 7,000. It was SBS television from South Korea came to an auto parts store in Music to learn what we were doing that was working. They said, we were all over your website, and this is amazing. They talked to people who got well. Now, they came all the way to Music, PA, to get this information. They would not go to any American research institution. Why? We don't know anything. We know how to make money, but we don't know how to live. People are dying who aren't sick. You're not sick. You're thirsty, as Dr. B named one of his books. And it's heartbreaking when you see the suffering, needless suffering, and how I've been banned all over. Dr. Batman Gillich, well, he died in 2004. I wish I knew exactly what happened to him. But regardless, it works, and doctors are told if you say anything about this, you'll lose your job and your license. We need to get rid of HMOs. I can tell you horror stories of HMOs, what's going on. And I don't look at anybody as a bad guy. They're addicted to money, which is the worst addiction possible. We need to get together. I've even offered $50,000 if any researcher can prove what I'm saying is not true. If I'm JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, CDC, Center for Disease Control, they know this. They've written about it. They got blasted for it. Dr. Michael Alderman, he's going to be on this station, by the way. He's going to be, and it looks like I made a good friend because we have a common ally. And this guy deserves, Dr. Batman Gillich, this Michael Alderman, the CDC, JAMA, they should get the highest awards possible for what they have done. They are right. This idea we need more research. We need fundraisers for like they're doing fundraiser for RSD, really stupid diagnosis. We don't need this. Most of these are easy. Every single thing is curable, but we have to eliminate the profit. We cannot have a profit motive on your pain and suffering. That's nuts. Because to make more money, you have to have more pain.
Well, Bob, I see that you had to put up a billboard because the asthma, allergies, were you banned or kicked out from something? So could you tell us why you had to put that on?
My wife
billboard
and I
up?
went to a rehab they're staging a support group meeting for people with asthma. And I said, I got up and I said, well, I can tell the people here who have asthma how to get rid of it fast. Whoa! And the next thing was, get out. This is not the place to tell people about getting rid of the water cure or getting rid of asthma with water and salt. Geez, I said, I figure, these people have asthma and they want to get rid of it. Don't pass anything out. So this is our place. Get out. Walked out the door, and there's a big empty billboard.
Perfect.
I said, told my wife, call it, I want that billboard. So you can see it right now. If we weren't telling the truth, are they going to let us get away with it? We're telling, what can the water cure do for asthma? The drugs and asthma and allergies, the drugs and alcohol, drugs can't. At any rate, every time.
I just love your caption here. It said, hope through the water cure withheld from an asthma support group. I mean, here's it's a support group. Surprising. No,
and you think about all the things we're saying. If what we say isn't true, if you had a business and somebody's saying you're a liar, wouldn't you do something?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to call anybody a liar. I believe everybody does the best they can for what they know. They've been brainwashed all their lives that this is how you measure your worth as a human being. That is boring. Collecting money is boring. Make a difference in somebody's life. Get well. I tell people, I expect to be paid. We expect to be paid for everything we do. And how we get paid is you get well. And now the second payment, you start helping other people get well. And that is what we want. And if for the whole world, if we all conducted our lives like this, we could never hurt each other. We'd have a life and we could live. What's going on in our country right now, you can pick the worst problem. We can get rid of them all. They're all simple. But we have to change what we're doing. I mean, we kicked God out and hell moved in. I mean, this is where we are.
That's so true.
You want to have the greatest fun you had in your life, the best vacation you had in your life, you do this. The stories, and so many websites are Google diabetes cured with sea salt and water. And you'll get them from all over. When China, no, I shouldn't say China, Japan and South Korea. But there's a lot, even Saudi Arabia, what they've done. God bless them. That's the kind of stuff we need to be feeding back to each other in each other's countries. Who cares who was right? All that matters is what's right. Not trying to knock each other off. Life is only, the experience of life, it's only a short time. I look at, I'm 79 now, and I'm looking, oh boy, I got to hurry. You're getting closer to the end. That means you got to work faster. Doesn't mean you slow down and take it easy.
I know that feeling now. Yes, I'm right there with you.
How about before we wrap up the show, how about one more good story that you can remember, Bob? One more experience with someone.
Well, everybody knows the Osmond family. And Alan, I guess one of Alan's kids, told him about the water cure because Alan has MS and diabetes. And I got to talk to Alan later. He says, when I saw your website, he said, the first thing I do, I pray. And when I prayed and I knew your website was true. Oh. And in fact, if you went to his website, Alan Osmond, or just Google Alan Osmond, water cure, Bob Butts. Stuff is all over his website. He was so, he wrote a poem about it. He said, tears from heaven as rain fills our streams, showers and baths that help keep us clean, water for drinking when good health begins. Baptized in water will even wash away sins. Each time you wash or just walk past the sink, don't forget that your body needs a big drink. Water helps sickness, but no one will tell, and doctors don't say much because it makes you well. Water is free, and the cost is just right. Drinking 8 glasses a day until night. You'll feel much better. What stories you'll tell. Health issues disappear, and you will be well. It's a big secret, so don't say a word. Unless you love others, then tell the unheard. Water is the answer to help you endure. So even call it the water cure.
And that's it for this week's Make a Change. What a great way to end. A big thank you to Bob Butts for coming in and doing the show today. Bob, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
You can hear The Water Cure 8:30 to 9:30 every Sunday morning. Terry Martin in the studio here for Make a Change. I am Tom Jenkins. Any questions, you can check out watercure.org, or you can call Terry at 866-646...
Watercure2.org.
866-646-3374. And we'll talk to you again next weekend. Thanks for listening. 94.3 FM The Talker.